boxer is not an athlete, he is a gladiator. A Venezuelan fighter who would undoubtedly have been one of the most spectacular fighters in history. Considered one of the most effective knockouts ever seen. Known for his hard hitting that led him to win 27 fights by knockout. 0 draws and 0 losses, whose fighting style was similar to that of Manny Pacquiao. A punching machine who had a bright future, since it was said that he was the only one who could defeat Manny. In fact, the fight between the two was already confirmed for 2010. Sadly, this was not the case, as this story would end in the worst way. A story full of sacrifice, love, fame, and a tragic, unexpected ending. Let's start at the beginning. Edwin Antonio Valero alive. He was born on December 3, 1981 in Bolero Alto, Mérida, Venezuela, son of Eloisa Vivas, who worked as a housewife, and Domingo Valero, a truck driver. The couple had 5 children: Edward, Urema, Edwin, Janet, and Luis. His father often left the house and did not return for days, until finally when Edwin was 7 years old. He abandoned them, and it affected him too much. So his mother and Edwin took over the house. So he grew up in a poor and unstructured family. Later, his mother had a relationship with another couple and had 3 other children. Edwin never liked studying. So at the age of 11, he dropped out of school despite his mother telling him that he had to be someone in life. Then the family moved to La Palmita, and Valero began to help his mother by selling fruit on a cart. In his spare time, he liked to practice Taekwondo. But because he had the responsibility of bringing money home, he did not train thoroughly. On one occasion, he won a basketball full of an album of puzzles, and as a cunning street boy, he exchanged it for a bicycle with which he sold ice cream. While in his free time, he walked his brothers. So he learned to repair his bike when it was broken down. His mother got him a job in the afternoons fixing bicycles in a workshop with a person named Dimas Garcia, who in his younger years had trained boxing in the afternoons. Mr. Dimas told him stories about boxing life, and Edwin gradually became more interested one afternoon in 1992. Valero was working distributing garlic to homes, and by chance he passed a gym called Morquito Rodriguez, which was named in honor of Venezuelan boxer Francisco Morquito Rodriguez, who won a gold medal in the Olympic Games. Valero marveled at the punching bags. Trainer Oscar Ortega saw him and told him if he wanted to get in the ring. He told her yes, but that he was working and he was afraid his bag of garlic would be stolen. So the coach told him to come the next day at 2 p.m. with shorts and sneakers. And so it was that young man arrived at the agreed time, and the coach observed the boy's qualities. He saw that he had determination and discipline, even though his family did not agree with him practicing that sport. From the beginning, he trained non-stop. He didn't waste 1 second in the gym. He did everything Coach Ortega asked him to do without hesitation. Hit and hit until he got tired. It was getting stronger and stronger. The coach began to notice that his blows were very powerful. He didn't look like a 12-year-old. Blows of struggle, of hunger, of the desire to get ahead. When he turned 13, he asked the trainer for permission to sleep in the gym. He agreed, because he saw that Valero was a poor boy. For a few days he had slept in the streets of the gym. This was Edwin Valero's childhood, surrounded by boxing gloves, a ring, and punching bags, dreaming of one day being a world champion. He trained beyond his capabilities and had brutal stamina. But the young man began to get into trouble. Began drinking and using drugs, even stealing, as he hung out with people of bad reputation. He began boxing as an amateur, winning 92 fights, of which he won 8,645 by knockout and lost only 6 times. Until in 1998, he became Central American and Caribbean champion. It is then that he meets Jennifer Carolina de Valero, who would become his wife years later, since Carolina's aunt lived next door to the gym. It was love at first sight, and everything happened thanks to the fact that Carolina's sister was going to turn 15. And she needed someone to complete the waltz. However, his parents never agreed to the relationship, as they saw him as a young man with no future. But on February 5th, 2000, this boxer's nightmare would have its beginnings. Edwin was riding a motorcycle without a helmet and speeding, assisting his father, who had crashed in a very old car he owned. But Valero never arrived with his father, because he crashed into a car and was shot, and his head hit the wax on the avenue. The result was a skull fracture, and he suffered a brain injury. A blood clot formed in his head, which was later removed, and the medical report indicated that the skull made contact with the brain nerves. So his reflexes weren't going to be fast enough to continue boxing. Normally, everyone thought Valero's career as a boxer was over. Edwin was hospitalized for 3 months in the city of Merida, and Carolina was always with him. Since they met, they were together. They were inseparable, and they both loved each other too much. No one imagined this love story. It would end tragically. On January 17th, Edwin returned to the ring despite being told he would never fight again. Despite the predictions, he ended up knocking out his rival and silenced the mouths of many who did not believe in him. On June 30th, 2012, 1 year and 4 months after the accident, Jennifer Carolina gave birth to her first child at the age of 15. However, she could not marry without her parents' consent. Her parents already resigned, accepted the union, and on October 8th of that same year, she legally became his wife. He then started wrestling as a pro and quickly stood out for his speed and aggression above the ring. He was known as El Inca because when he took his first steps in boxing, he was sponsored by an equestrian group called El Inca, and he came out with that name written on his pants. His career seemed to be on the right track, as he was a very talented boxer and had knocked out all his opponents so far. In the first assaults, the Inca Valero was heard throughout the country. But little by little, the excesses took a toll on him, and his behavior became increasingly worse. He was a drug addict and an alcoholic. In addition to wasting money, he still tried to help and created a foundation for people with disabilities. After that, he had his second daughter, Rosalind Valero, who was born in California, because Edwin had looked for other opportunities in the United States, and that he had previously not been allowed a visa as a boxer due to the accident he had. However, he had a very bad time, since one of his coaches was stealing his salary and he didn't know what was happening. He simply told him that the promoters had not paid and he ran out of money. So he decided to return to Venezuela, where people already considered him an idol. Again, Edwin Valero's career was on the rise, and he began to be very successful, defending his title 4 times and coming out victorious. His fights generated millions of dollars, and that drove him to become better and better. He even tattooed the Venezuelan flag with the face of Hugo Chavez on his chest. And this led him to have great influence in the Venezuelan government, since they became good friends and the president supported them in public. Valero was chivalrous, respectful, friendly, and polite, but when he drank, he was violent and aggressive. The only one who really knew him was his wife. His family began to notice a strange change in his attitude, which is why they did not hesitate to ask him if he was consuming any narcotic substances. His behavior changed as the days passed, and it was a very noticeable change. His family tried to help him, but he distanced himself from them during September 2007. Valero was reported by his own mother and sister for domestic abuse before the Vigía police for having hit them both during a family dispute. Also, they said that his brother was beating his wife, and all this came to light. April 4th, 2009. The World Boxing Commission had a new lightweight champion weeks later. After defeating Colombian Antonio Petalua in a dramatic fight in the city of Austin, Texas, he was arrested for drunk driving in May 2009. During an incident on April 15, 2009, Valero shot Jennifer in the leg while intoxicated, claiming it had been an accident. But his family revealed that it was not an accident, and he had done it on purpose. Valero was involved in several serious vehicle accidents that he was worth thanks to money and fame. He always fled from justice due to the admiration they had for being one of the boxers of the moment, for fear that he would use his influence with the national government. He even murdered a thief because he stole his motorcycle. But everything was resolved with bail and a good sum of money to clear his file. After that, already by 2010, Edwin's wife contacted his mother, since everything had gotten out of control. Since Valero spent the whole day locked up, taking and consuming drugs, even forcing him to consume as well, and after several attempts to fix the situation, Carolina de Valero tried to take her own life. After the failed attempt, she and Edwin decided to rehabilitate themselves in a clinic in Caracas. The specialist prescribed pills and injections. But Edwin did not carry out the treatment to the letter, and days later, he returned to the same thing on March 25th. 2010, he threatened the medical staff of the University Hospital of Los Andes in the city of Mérida because they were attending to his wife, who had been admitted to the hospital with bruises on her body and a pneumothorax, as well as the perforation of a lung resulting from a broken rib, since apparently the woman had accidentally fallen from a height of 3 m when she went up to check the tank of the house because, according to her, no water was falling from her. Then he went to sleep. I couldn't stand the pain in my back from that same discomfort. He woke her up and alerted the family, so they took her to the hospital. However, the doctors realized that she had received a blow, and she accepted it, freshly admitted. For her part, a doctor at the hospital spread the news, and Valero threatened to hit the medical staff if the news leaked to the media. Then he threatened his wife, and everyone present noticed. After this threat, his arrest occurred. 3 days later, an arrest measure was ordered in flagrante delicto against Edwin Valero. The judge also imposed protective measures on Jennifer Carolina, the boxer. She could not be approached, pursued, or harassed. He could not go near the hospital while his wife was confined there. In addition, he called for protection for hospital workers. Likewise, the judge asked Valero to be admitted to the San Juan de Dios hospital to complete a rehabilitation cycle, since they were able to realize his addiction, and this happened until April 5th. Since once his wife left the hospital, he denied that he had mistreated her and complained to the prosecutors. So on April 8th, 2010, he was released on bail and asked to appear in court every 90 days. Then came the tragic day. On April 16th, Edwin and his wife left Mérida for the state of Vargas, Venezuela, since after talking about their relationship, they made the decision that the boxer would go to Cuba to rehabilitate. However, on the way, Valero observed that a car had been following him since he left his home state. Seeing a National Guard checkpoint, He asked one of the officials to help him because they wanted to murder him and called a friend to lend him military custody until he reached his destination. But the superior advised him to stay in Valencia that night, since it was late and the best thing was to rest. Besides, Valero had been drinking vodka during the tour, so he thought it was the best option. On April 17, 2010, Edwin Valero arrived with his wife at the InterContinental Valencia Hotel in Carabobo, Venezuela, at around 11:30 p.m. and was seen talking calmly with her in the hotel lobby. When he wanted to pay for the room, he took out a wad of dollars, and since he had no bolivars, he went to change some and returned to provide the service. But not before telling the staff to thoroughly check the room before entering, since he wanted to be sure that no one would have followed him there. Although he checked it himself, he asked reception for another bedroom one in which there was not so much noise. So they put him in room 624. The night passed normally. No strange events or altercations were reported. But at 5:30 a.m., Edwin Valero approached the reception barefoot and informed the workers that his dead wife was in the room. He didn't look scared or violent, and at first they didn't believe him until someone came to verify what he was saying. He told the staff he killed her. When hotel security saw the woman, she immediately called the Carabobo State police, who showed up after a few minutes to arrest the boxer. He calmly waited for the authorities to arrive when entering the bedroom. No disorder was found that would indicate a fight. However, they found Valero's wife, Jennifer Carolina de Valero, 24 years old and mother of 2 of his children, in a dorsal cube position on the beige carpet, with the upper and lower limbs extended and glued to the body. With his feet crossed, his head tilted to the right, that revealed 3 wounds caused by a knife on his neck. With a brown blouse gathered above his navel, and with the jeans unbuttoned and without socks on one side of his body. 2 semantic stains could be seen on the carpet, as well as cans and bottles of beer and a bottle of mineral water. On the double bed were the sheets and pillows stained with blood, and under a small armchair were some bloody sheets, as well as a freshly washed white towel in the bathroom. It should be noted that they did not find any knife or razor or anything similar that caused the injuries once they finished the intervention of the scene. His body was transferred to the Carabobo State morgue to carry out the legal necropsy. On the other hand, Edwin Valero called his in-laws' house and informed them that his daughter had lost her life at the hands of some hitmen who were chasing them, and hung up. When asked if he wanted someone to be called, he said that he was not getting along well with his family and that it was for the best. Call his manager, Segundo Lujano. In his first statement, he mentioned that that night he fell asleep next to his wife, since he had taken a lot and consumed drugs. When he woke up, he was covered in blood and with his wife's body next to him. He doesn't remember anything and simply thinks that he is finished with his wife. So he goes down and communicates what he has done without knowing if it was really him. Furthermore, he told the police that he remembers that they have been following him since he left Merida. So someone had probably entered the room and committed the act. However, many contradictions were found in the interrogation. Already in the afternoon, Valero's manager arrived at the police station and spoke to him. He showed him his concern for his children and asked his manager to recover the suitcase of money that was in the hands of the police, which amounted to an amount of $92,000. Everything went normally that night, but around 1:30 a.m. On April 19th, an inmate who was near Edwin's cell heard noises inside his cell and told the officers that something was wrong with Valero. They immediately approached, and as they looked, they saw the boxer's body hanging from dark blue jeans without clothes. Only wearing gray socks, he was immediately lowered, and his eyes were open, and something white was visible from his half-closed mouth. It was a photo of his wife and daughters. His body was transferred to the morgue at 4:00 in the morning. When his family was notified, they went to the morgue, and his sister Janet forced her way in and saw the body of her brother lying on the metal plate and could notice that he had a blow to the head, in the occipital region or nape, and he did not have any mark on his neck, in addition to having bruises on some parts of his body. It was ruled that he died from mechanical asphyxiation. So from that moment, the cause of death began to be questioned. Since Edwin Valero's body did not have the characteristic groove of a hanging, the news was made known through the media, and few could believe it. Even his relatives argued that he would never have taken his own life, as he was afraid of dying. It was announced that there was no significant mark on Valero's neck indicating the mechanical asphyxiation injury, adding that the boxer entered the prison wearing sports clothes, black sports pants, a black t-shirt with some red stripes, and a cap with orange stripes. But apparently, he used jeans to commit suicide. How is this possible? So the police came out to tell the media that they had allowed Valero to bathe and change his clothes. But everything raised the suspicion that it had not been an accident caused by him, but that someone had murdered him. Then the rumor began to spread that Edwin Valero, the Venezuelan government, had helped him due to his influence with the then President Hugo Chavez, and apparently he had set up a scene. But in reality, the body that was in the urn was a wax doll, and the boxer had been taken to the boxer. After that, the only 2 visits Valero had at the general command of the state of Carabobo before his death. They claimed that they had not brought clothes or food to the boxer. No one knows how the garment got into the cell. Furthermore, said garment had mysteriously disappeared and was not found. The case of Carolina de Valero and Edwin Valero was extremely strange. There's a lot of irregular stuff that makes you think this whole thing was planned. The question is, why was the weapon never found used? Apparently, when the luminol tests were applied in the room, traces of blood were found all over the carpet, in the sink, in the bathtub, and in the bathroom bowl. So after examining the wounds, it was determined that they used a scalpel. And the reason there was blood in the bathtub was because Valero threw the instrument around. But why would a boxer use a scalpel to commit murder? Since he was under the consumption of substances and alcohol, the most consistent thing would have been to beat her to exhaustion. But that was not the case, since the body showed no signs of struggle or bruising. So what really happened there? Why didn't Edwin Valero flee the scene? Furthermore, it should be noted that the wounds to the neck were not so superficial as to have caused his death so quickly. The weird thing was they never checked the hotel videos to find out if anyone accompanied the couple that night or if anyone went to the room during it. Both deaths were extremely strange. Unfortunately, the only witnesses to what happened that night are underground. It caught the attention of the investigators that neither in the room nor in the car did they find the boxer's clothes. All they found was a bag of Jennifer Vieira's clothes. Here is something relevant because Valero's mother stated that she herself placed Edwin Vallero's suitcases in the trunk of the vehicle, and in one there were $92,000 that her son was carrying on the day of his trip to Cuba. Eloisa remembers that when they made the decision to travel, Edwin only took a pink suitcase in which he put the necessary clothes and another brown suitcase in which the dollars were in the photos taken by investigators at the crime scene of the case. Of Jennifer Carolina, only the brown suitcase appears and the other does not, although the police claimed they did not know where that suitcase was. In addition, he mentioned that hours before leaving the state of Merida, Edwin went to the town of Tovar to buy the vehicle with which he would travel, a blue Toyota vehicle, and gave as part of the payment a Toyota Camry. A check for 60,000 bolivars, and the rest he paid in dollars. Miss Eloisa affirms that the man with whom her son did business surely saw the suitcase with the money and does not doubt that they could be the ones who were following the boxer to Valencia with the purpose of stealing it. The truth is that this case opens up a very broad panorama, full of many theories and hypotheses about what could really have happened to the couple. Although there is doubt whether Edwin Valero really murdered his wife. And there is also another. Who ordered the murder of the boxer? And why did the police go for the $92? Or her father-in-law when he learned he'd ended his daughter's life? Or perhaps the Chavez government because of the bad reputation that this was going to cause him? Or did he just decide to end his own life? A psychiatric examination carried out on the Venezuelan revealed that he had an unstable and impulsive personality. A situation that was accompanied by an addiction to multiple substances that further triggered his aggressiveness due to the history of head trauma. Having received a blow to the frontal lobe, it makes him impulsive and aggressive, since this part of the brain controls impulses. There was so much doubt about what had really happened to the Venezuelan boxer that his family made a decision. And just 1 month after the boxer's burial, on May 13, 2010, at 9 a.m., Valero's body, the Merida police went to the scene, as well as elements of the National Guard, some members of the court and prosecutor's offices. 1 hour later, the mobile laboratory arrived to carry out the work. After 3 hours, samples were taken and sent to the Department of Forensic Medicine of the state of Merida and Caracas to review them thoroughly, giving a period of 15 days to deliver the results. But it was not until 2014 that they delivered said results, which showed that Edwin Valero supplied him with a substance that caused his lungs to explode. As for Jennifer Vieira, the true cause of death was not announced in 2016. Edwin Valero's film entitled Elica was released, a case full of mystery and questions that surround this case.